Hello everyone, here we are. We're going to get going with Nehemiah chapter 4. And if you remember, he had gone around at night to look at the walls that were broken in Jerusalem, okay, with the idea of fixing them. So here we go. When Sanballat, now you remember Sanballat was nasty and he challenged him, okay? So he's going to challenge him again. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" Now, if you looked at the photographs that I put up, you'll see that the stones are still very viable and they're thousands of years old, okay? So he's really being a hideous mocker. Tobiah, the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, "What are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it would break down their wall of stones." And once again, go to my site and look at the pictures and you'll see how horribly they're mocking, because it's very clear that the wall is solid. It just needs to be repaired. So, "Hear us, our God, for we are despised." This is Nehemiah talking. "Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they've thrown insults in the face of the builders." So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. This sort of sounds like Trump's wall, doesn't it? They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is given out, and there's so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall." Also, our enemies said, "Before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them and we'll kill them and put an end to the work." See, like I told you, the more things change, the more they stay the same, don't they? Then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, "Wherever you turn, they will attack us," or "Wherever you turn, they will attack us." Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. And after I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who's great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes." When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. So this is how they had to build the wall. They had to hold a spear in one hand and a brick in another, okay? And this is because of the constant threat that they were under. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me, meaning Nehemiah speaking. Then I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, "The work is extensive and spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along the wall. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, join us there. Our God will fight for us." So not only are the builders and the people collecting supplies have, their weapons on their sides, in their hands, as well as the materials to build. But they also have set up men with swords who are standing behind them as they work, facing outwards to make sure no one attacks. Okay? So we continued the work with half the men holding spears from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. At that time I also said to the people, have every man and his helper stay inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve us as guards by night and as workers by day. Neither I nor my brothers, nor my men, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when he went for water. So these people are under siege trying to do something right, okay? Sounds very familiar. Now, the men and their wives raised a great outcry against their fellow Jews. Some were saying, we and our sons and daughters are numerous. In order for us to eat and stay alive, we must get grain. Others were saying, we're mortgaging our fields, our vineyards, and our homes to get grain during the famine. Still others were saying, we've had to borrow money to pay the king's tax on our fields and vineyards. Although we are of the same flesh and blood as our fellow Jews, and though our children are as good as theirs, yet we have to subject our sons and daughters to slavery. Some of our daughters have already been enslaved, but we're powerless because our fields and our vineyards belong to others. When I heard their outcry and these charges, I was very angry. Nehemiah, still talking. I pondered them in my mind and then accused the nobles and officials. I told them, you're charging your own people interest. So I called together a large meeting to deal with them and said, as far as possible, we've brought back our fellow Jews who were sold to the Gentiles, meaning I'm assuming to the Persians, to Babylon. Now you're selling your own people only for them to be sold back to us. They kept quiet because they could find nothing to say. Oh, excuse me. This is not Nehemiah talking. They kept quiet because they could find nothing to say to Nehemiah's accusation here. So I continued. What you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in fear of our God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? I and my brothers and my men are also lending the people money and grain, and let us stop charging interest. Give back to them immediately their fields, vineyards, olive groves, and houses, and also the interest you're charging them. 1% of the money, grain, new wine, and olive oil. We'll give it back, they said, and we'll not demand anything more from them. We'll do as you say. They were convicted. Then I summoned the priests. I made the nobles and officials take an oath to do what they'd promised. I also shook out the folds of my robe and said, in this way, may God shake out of their houses and possessions anyone who doesn't keep his promise. So may such a person be shaken out and emptied. At this, the whole assembly said, Amen, and praised the Lord. And the people did as they had promised. These were Jews putting Jews into enslavement and charging them interest where they didn't have money for food. Moreover, from the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, until his 32nd year, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate the food allotted to the governor. But the earlier governors, those preceding me, placed a heavy burden on the people and took 40 shekels of silver from them in addition to food and wine. Their assistants also lorded it over the people, but out of reverence for God, I didn't act like that. Instead, I devoted myself to the work on this wall. All my men were assembled there for work. We did not acquire any land. So that sounds like Trump too. Trump didn't take a salary, and Nehemiah's not either. He's like, I didn't take a thing from them. I just put my mind to working on the wall. Furthermore, so Trump in a lot of ways was sort of like a modern Nehemiah in that respect. Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table, as well as those who came to us from the surrounding nations. Each day, 1 ox, 6 choice sheep, and some poultry were prepared for me, and every 10 days, an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. In spite of all this, I never demanded the food allotted to the governor because the demands were heavy on these people. So he became the governor. I think it said in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, so 12 years later, but he didn't do to the Jews what the other governors were doing, and they were Jews, okay? Remember me with favor, my God, for all I have done for these people. I can imagine that Trump would say the same thing. It says here, moreover, from the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, until his 32nd year, 12 years. Okay, so he was governor for 12 years. Neither I nor my brothers ate the food allotted to the governor. In other words, the governors automatically get a portion, but he said no. Okay, so he took no salary, no food, nothing. He shared what he had, okay? So let's read the end again. Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table, as well as those who came to us from the surrounding nations. Each day the one ox, 6 choice sheep, and some poultry were prepared for me, and every 10 days an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. In spite of all this, I never demanded the food allotted to the governor, because the demands were heavy on these people. Remember me with favor, my God, for all I have done for these people. You know, even for you who hate Trump, God's going to remember him with favor for the things he tried to do for us. He tried to be a father to this nation and protect us from our enemies. He built a wall like Nehemiah. You know, walls are good things. I don't care what you think. And if you want to do this bleeding heart, we just let everybody in. That's fine for you. It's not fine for me. Walls are good things. There's a wall in heaven. Revelation tells us clearly there's a huge wall around heaven. All right. So anybody who tries to make it like, oh, we shouldn't have a wall. No, it's just not. It's just insane thinking. OK, we have enemies. And our enemies are marching across our border right now. All right, when word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies that I'd rebuilt the wall and not a gap was left in it, though up to that time I'd not set the doors and the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message: come, let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono, O-N-O. Oh no. But they were scheming to harm me, so I sent messengers to them with this reply: I'm carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. Then the 5th time, Sanballat sent his aide to me with the same message, and in his hand was an unsealed letter in which was written, quote, it's reported among the nations, and Geshem says it's true, that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you're building the wall. Here we go with the lies about the building of the wall. Once again, history is repeating itself and has probably repeated itself many, many times. This is just an obvious story. We just went through this with Trump and the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you're about to become their king and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. So mocking him, okay, and his natural leadership ability. Therefore, there is a king in Judah. Now this report will get back to the king. So come, let us meet together. So he's saying you're going to set yourself up as king, even though Artaxerxes is king. This is just vicious. And this is exactly what we just went through. I sent him this reply, quote, nothing like what you're saying is happening. You're just making it up out of your head. That was his mean tweet. Like Trump had all of his mean tweets, okay? And Trump's tweets, mean, true. That's what I say about them. What people don't realize is that when Trump talks, he's usually talking, the American people's voice is coming out of his head. Okay, so I know I'm kind of on fire here. All right, it's just kind of making me angry to see that this is just the way that evil operates. And it's the same old, same old. I always say evil is like a B movie. Now, we don't mock it, okay? Because Satan is a prince and you and I are not, okay? We're not princes. We're not princes of any kind of principality, any area, any nation, nothing, okay? Satan is, all right? So we don't mock our enemy. But it just annoys me that it's always the same thing, like a B movie, all right? They were all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work and it will not be completed. But I prayed, this is Nehemiah talking, now strengthen my hands. In the older versions of the Bible, it says, now therefore, O Lord, strengthen my hands. And I wrote a rock song with that as the refrain. Someday I'll put it up for you to hear. It's called Run. And it was written about Nehemiah, but it was put into the context of the people in slavery in the rock world. All right. But I prayed, now strengthen my hands. One day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut in at his home. He said, let us meet in the house of God inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors, because men are coming to kill you. By night they are coming to kill you. And we know that this is probably happening to this day to Trump. But I said, should a man like me run away? Or should someone like me go into the temple to save his life? I will not go. I realized that God had not sent him, but that he had prophesied against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He had been hired to intimidate me so that I would commit a sin by doing this, and then they'd give me a bad name to discredit me. Ooh, I'm getting irritated. Remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they've done. Remember also the prophet Noadiah and how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me. So the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul, E-L-U-L, that's a month in the Jewish calendar, in 52 days. When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God. I wish Trump had gotten our wall completed. Also, in those days, the nobles of Judah were sending many letters to Tobiah, and replies from Tobiah kept coming to them. For many in Judah were under oath to him, since he was son-in-law to Shechaniah, son of Arah. A-R-A-H, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. Moreover, they kept reporting to me his good deeds and then telling him what I said. And Tobiah sent letters to intimidate me. How many times you gotten a threatening letter from a bill collector? Every time that happens, every time you get a letter that intimidates you, you just remember that the devil is doing it, okay? It's Sanballat and Tobiah all over again. Okay, so we're going to read that one again. For many in Judah were under oath to him, since he was the son-in-law to Shechaniah, son of Arah, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. Moreover, they kept reporting to me his good deeds and then telling him what I said. And Tobiah sent letters to intimidate me. Okay, don't let the enemy do that to you, okay? I mean, pay your bills, but the point I'm making is when it starts to get nasty, once again, this is part of the B movie. It's the same old, same old. You know, we've got people that mock, we've got people that try to trick, we've got false prophets trying to get us to stumble. We've got interference with the great works that we're trying to accomplish for God, and we've got letters sent to us to intimidate us, and we've got those people who love to tell us how good our enemies are and tell us about their good deeds as if we're supposed to say, oh yeah, you know, I hate people like that. They come to you and say, oh, you know, so-and-so, and it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, I've already written that person off so far away because I know how evil they are. I don't understand people like that, but people are really good at game playing, okay? And some people really like to hurt other people, especially those that are called to great things, okay? Or even just a work. It doesn't have to be a great work, but when you're trying to get something accomplished, you have to go through, you know, like I just said, the false prophets, the letters of intimidation, the mocking, the people who want to get a rise out of you by telling you how good your enemies are, etc., etc., etc. So I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll pick it up, and we'll probably be out of this book in 2 days, and then we're going into Esther. I love you. Bye-bye.